In the ancient kingdom of Eldoria, a young King David ascended to the throne. He was spirited and eager, but thankfully, he had a wise and steady mentor named Edward to guide him. Edward had served David's father for years, and his counsel was as valuable as gold. His calm wisdom was the bedrock upon which the kingdom's peace was built. For a time, all was well. The kingdom prospered, and the people loved their young king, who seemed to rule with a maturity far beyond his years, thanks to Edward's quiet guidance. But one year, a severe drought struck the land. The crops withered, and the kingdom faced a terrible food crisis. Panic spread like wildfire. King David, young and feeling the immense pressure of his crown, grew increasingly frustrated. In a heated council meeting, he discovered that Edward had overlooked a crucial detail in the kingdom's grain storage plan. The oversight was small, but its consequences were now massive. Blame needed a target, and David's temper flared. In a moment of sheer fury, he pointed his finger at his oldest advisor. "You have failed me. You have failed this kingdom." Roare. Ignoring the gasps from the council and the deep hurt in Edward's eyes, David banished his mentor from the capital, stripping him of his titles and honors. Edward, ever humble, accepted his fate without a word of protest. He traveled to a remote village and settled into a simple life as a farmer. He bought a small plot of land and began to work the soil. The villagers, at first wary of the newcomer, soon came to respect him. They saw his quiet dignity, his gentle way with the land, and the surprising wisdom he shared when asked for advice. He helped them solve disputes, taught them better ways to irrigate their fields, and became a beloved elder in the small community. His past life as a royal advisor all but forgotten. Back in the capital, things were falling apart. Without Edward's calming influence and strategic mind, King David found himself adrift in a sea of problems. He made one impulsive decision after another, each one making the food crisis worse. His temper grew shorter, his judgments harsher. The respect of his people began to curdle into fear and resentment. Late at night alone in his grand chambers, David would stare into the darkness, the weight of his regret pressing down on him. He missed Edward's steady voice, his patient counsel, and the way he could see a solution where David only saw a problem. The king's angry decision echoed in the empty halls, a constant reminder of his folly. Desperate to find a mind as sharp as Edward's, King David devised a challenge. He sent a proclamation to every village in the kingdom. It was a seemingly impossible riddle. "Bring to the palace," the decree read, "a jar filled with wisdom." He offered a great reward, hoping to attract the brightest minds. Villagers everywhere were baffled. How could one fill a jar with an abstract concept like wisdom? Some tried to fill jars with scrolls of ancient texts, others with symbolic items. All were turned away. The king grew more despondent, believing wisdom had truly fled his kingdom. When the decree reached Edward's village, the people brought the riddle to him. Edward smiled gently, a twinkle in his eye. He took a small clay jar and a tiny pumpkin seedling, still attached to its vine. Carefully, he placed the seedling inside the jar, leaving the vine connected to the main plant outside. He then tended to it every day, watering it and making sure it got sunlight. Weeks passed, and the tiny pumpkin grew and grew, slowly but surely, until it completely filled the inside of the jar, pressing against its clay walls. Edward then carefully cut the vine. He handed the jar to the village chief and said, "Take this to the king. Here is your jar full of wisdom." When the village chief presented the jar at the palace, the court fell silent. David peered inside and saw the perfectly formed pumpkin, impossibly grown within the narrow confines of the jar. At first, he was confused, but then a wave of understanding washed over him. The solution wasn't about force or magic. It was about patience, foresight, and allowing a solution to grow naturally over time. It was a perfect metaphor for wise governance. This was Edward's thinking. This was his calm, profound wisdom. Tears welled in the king's eyes. He hadn't just found a clever trick. He had found a trace of his lost mentor. Overcome with remorse and a newfound sense of hope, David immediately set out, not to summon Edward, but to go to him personally, to apologize, and to beg him to return. He finally understood that true power wasn't in a king's command, but in the calm, thoughtful mind that guides it. Thanks for watching. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales of wisdom.